Hi, thanks for joining me. So today I want to do an anime I watched video, because I've been doing a lot of anime watching. But before that, I just wanted to say, I hope you guys are enjoying your early September here. In 2015, it's really kind of nice late summer weather here. I've really been enjoying it. It's actually probably gotten hotter than it has all summer just in the past week or two. And we've had a pretty mild summer anyway. Normally the summers don't get super hot up here. I think it's floating around the mid to high 80s, and might have actually bumped up into the 90s here for a day or two. But for the most part, it's been really nice this summer. And I actually just the past few weeks, realized, well, we're getting towards the end here, and I wanted to go out and just have some fun. I did a little hiking. I did some herping. Apparently it's called, where I just went out to some, local bodies of water, was just looking to see, hey, what's kicking around in terms of, like, amphibians, reptiles, are there any turtles around, or what are take some pictures of some frogs. I took a picture of a snake, just, found some really fun stuff, so I've just been, enjoying that a little bit. Speaking of snakes, one of the things that got me interested in that specifically is, personally, and I understand a lot of people are not going to agree with this, because, a lot of people just find snakes, distasteful. They're just, I don't know how they look, like a big scaly worm, but I've always loved them. I've always thought that they were really beautiful. When I go to zoos or anything like that, I'd always love to look at the reptile exhibits, and just, if there's a little garter snake outside, I always just love to see them. And so I wanted to get a pet snake. I've been thinking about this for years and years, and I just have never felt settled down enough to be like, oh, now it's time for some pet that I'm gonna, it's gonna have to basically rely on me for its entire existence. I mean, I had some pets when I was a kid, and I think it taught me that, they pass away, they require care, and, I just wasn't sure, that I was really ready for that kind of responsibility. But I think now, I'm realizing, I'd really like to have some sort of a companion. They say animals make a very agreeable friend, and, again, it may seem odd to want a snake to kind of fill that role, but, like I said, they're beautiful. I think there's a lot of benefits of keeping them in terms of, them not requiring a lot of care. Especially the one I'm looking at is a corn snake. They're supposed to make very good pets. They're supposed to be very docile. They don't get all that large. You keep them in a terrarium, and you don't need to feed them all that often. They're probably gonna, as younger snakes feed like once a week, as older snakes maybe twice a week, and you can just get frozen animals to feed them. So if it eats mice or rats or something like that, you just get a whole bunch of them frozen, put them in your freezer, just take them out and defrost them, feed them that way. They're not messy, because any animal that only eats once a week, they're only gonna poop once a week too, pretty much. So that they're pretty easy to keep clean, and I just think I'll really enjoy being able to have an animal like that. That's just so fun to look at. And I can take it out, just try to get it used to handling me. I think I'm totally going to be fine with an animal if it's a little I mean, a snake's a snake. They're going to want to bite certain things if they feel scared, just threatened or hungry. And that's it. I mean, they're not out to get you. They don't want to kill you. They don't, I mean, the snake can't do anything to me, can't do anything to anybody. And, from what I hear, the more you handle them, the more they take to it. Corn snakes especially are, supposed to really be able to get used to handling. I've even heard some, pet store workers and people that work with snakes breeding them say that they've never been bitten by a corn snake. So I think they're a really great pet. And anyway, I'm super excited. I just found out tonight that my landlord approved my request to keep one of those. So you'll be hearing some updates about that in the future. I'll maybe a co-host here on my show. I might be able to hold up a little snake here for you. Whether you will enjoy that or not, I'll leave that up to you. But So after much ado, let me get to the point of this video. I just wanted to share with you some anime that I've been watching. I'll just start off, I guess. For starters, we have Netflix DVDs. You guys remember these? They do in fact do these, and the other day I started grabbing some stuff. I think I talked about it in my last video. So this one is Virgin Fleet, and the best way I can describe this is as something of a I guess a more retro. This is from 1991. Version of something like Concole. It has that same feeling to it of, kind of this nostalgia or, appreciation for sort of World War II era naval weapons and sort of, equipment. But then kind of set with, like, kind of cute, pretty girls and stuff like that, in kind of, a little bit more of a lighthearted, like fantasy fighting show, I guess. In this case, it's actually done by AIC, which is usually always a plus. I really like AIC's work. The animation work on this, I think, is good. The character designs are nice. But ultimately, somehow I haven't really been liking this. I haven't quite finished this up. It's an hour and 30 minutes. I'm pretty certain that this is a series of OAVs. I think it's like probably 3 OAVs that are a half hour each. It's not like I hate it. I just was kind of like, somehow it wasn't all that entertaining for me. So, it is about basically like an all-girls school that I guess at this point is looked at as more of almost a finishing school. Where just, these girls are gonna graduate from the school and they're just desirable as brides, basically because they're, I don't know what, they've learned, how to be a cultured, Japanese young lady. Ostensibly it's a military school, and what they're trying to foster in the girls is this, they call a virgin power, which I just think it's funny and sort of how explicit it is. But I think sort of like a maiden power, where they actually can have this almost like a telekinesis or sort of like psychic attack that they can use. So in the end, they're supposed to learn how to pilot planes and basically be like combat pilots during a ceasefire period of time. So it's probably been, I don't know, 10 years that there's been a ceasefire during a sort of a World War II style situation. And obviously during the course of this, relations break down a little bit. So it's interesting, but not quite what I was hoping for, I guess, or maybe just less enjoyable than than some other things are. Next up, we have DVD I ended up picking up because I wasn't able to get it on Netflix. Landlock. This was quite affordable, so I didn't really think twice about just picking it up. And it's the main reason that I wanted to check this out is, of course, the character designs by Masamune Shirow. You can see here, just very iconic artwork of his. You can really tell right off that it's his stuff, and it looks pretty cool. And it is decent. It's one of those just really classic hero stories. Again, kind of that Star Wars-ish, or just Joseph Campbell, kind of, I don't know what, the hero's story. So it is a little weird though, because this guy is ostensibly the hero, but I think that the story revolves much more around, I think that's the same character up there, but it revolves much more around this character. Her name is Erin, and I would say that she is probably more the main character, really. I think like most of the the kind of external, maybe internal conflict actually kind of revolves around her. Suffice to say though, I guess aside from the animation looking quite nice, and actually I didn't even take note of who did this. I'm not sure who the animation studio was on this. Maybe I'll add that. But it's nice looking. It looks really good. The Masamune Shiro's character designs really, are well captured in this too, which I think is cool. Unfortunately, there just isn't a lot going for the story. I wouldn't quite go as far as calling it generic, but it is just very, there just isn't a lot to distinguish it. The world is, kind of interesting, but not that interesting. The characters are kind of interesting, but not that interesting. It's just everything is sort of, just not as good as it should be, to make something really entertaining. I think, technically there's a lot of good, to this, but, it's played so seriously, too, that, there really isn't any comic relief. It's almost like, there aren't even very many, interesting genre conventions for it to sort of, to frame itself around, other than, like I said, this sort of generic, hero story. And it's, it's okay. I didn't hate it, but it again, kind of like Virgin Fleet, it just wasn't as good as I was hoping, but, definitely really glad that I watched that one. Oh, sorry, I probably bumped the mic there. Next up, though, I want to talk about something I did enjoy quite a bit, which unfortunately was marred by something unfortunate, I guess. I was just kind of bored the other night, and I'm like, well, I didn't really feel like doing much of anything, and I was like, well, let me watch some anime. And for whatever reason, I decided to watch Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha. It's one of those shows that, it seemed like it was quite popular a number of years ago, 10 years ago, maybe something like that, and it just popped into my head, and I'm like, I've always wanted to check that out. Let me just see if they have it on Crunchyroll or, YouTube, and eventually I found it on YouTube, and I just, laid on the couch and watched, Mahou Shoujo Lyrical Nanoha, and it was really good. I liked it. It's one of those shows that does, kind of rely on that framework of the magical girl show to give it its structure. And, beyond that, you basically just have the story of, this young girl who, gets these magical powers. And, this character had basically found some of these, kind of ancient magical relics. He's like some sort of, sort of junk collector, treasure hunter kind of character. And, in some other, alternate dimension, he finds these artifacts that are really powerful. And, so they're transporting them, and right at the beginning, something happens, the ship gets attacked or whatever, and these things end up getting scattered on Earth. Now, this is a pretty typical setup in terms of kind of like Cardcaptor Sakura. The Clo cards get dispersed, and then she has to go and retrieve them, that kind of thing. So, from there you kind of get this relationship building up between this character and this girl Nanoha, who ends up finding him and also happens to have a lot of magical potential. So this character, of course, transforms into a cute mascot animal, and ends up teaching Nanoha how to use her magical powers. But one of the things I find that was really interesting about that dynamic is that it turns out Nanoha is a much better magician than the character is that's teaching her. So it's sort of as soon as he kind of gets her started with the basics, she's already way beyond what he is, which I thought was a really interesting kind of take on that. And Nanoha, I think, is a really interesting protagonist too, sort of the antithesis of something like Shinji in Evangelion, where he's really this reluctant protagonist. Nanoha, she's not she's kind of mature beyond her years. She's not kind of frivolous, with this power that she's been given. But she's also she's also very skilled with it, I guess. So she has this really interesting, very sort of even-handed temperament that I thought was an interesting choice for her character. And so anyway, as she's going around just collecting these magical artifacts that sort of do the monster of the week, they'll kind of infect other things and then turn into some sort of crazy thing that she has to defeat. She runs into another character who is basically fighting to collect these just for their power, and that brings kind of another interesting character dynamic to it, where in this series, and I actually ended up watching Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha A's afterward. I would say both of this series have this very, what I think is a very Japanese take on these stories, where you have sort of heroes and villains, where there is really no good and evil in it, and necessarily you don't have characters that are just pure evil, and then the pure good is fighting the pure evil. It's more that you just have different groups with different agendas and different goals, and they just end up being at odds with each other. And that's kind of how this character is. You have a very sympathetic villain who I think is made more and more sympathetic as the series goes on, and I just thought it was fun. I thought it was very nice. Now I'll talk a little bit about Nanoha A's too, but I want to take a moment to discuss something that was interesting, because I was surprised by how strongly I reacted to this. In wanting to know a little bit more about the series, I went ahead and did a search online. Some of the first searches that come up are things like Wikipedia, but of course Anime News Network came up, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let me check this out. So I checked it out. They have their little blurb. They have a little chart where you can see a whole bunch of people like the show. So I'm like, all right, I think this is actually something that I should have watched a long time ago. It was really quite good. But then there was a review for the DVD set, so I was like, well, let me check this out. Now, I read this review, and it infuriated me, kind of. I had such an emotional reaction to this review. I mean, even now, this reviewer was so off base. It's a little hard for me, I think, to talk completely rationally about it, because I feel so strongly that this guy really misrepresented the show and was really antagonistic towards the fan base for the show. I think basically made claims about it that are untrue and just almost offensive. I guess maybe I don't have a lot of experience being genuinely offended, because what am I going to be offended about? Somebody calls me a nerd or something? Okay, I am. Well, but this was above and beyond, kind of. So anyway, I'll let you guys read this review if you'd like. I'll put a link to it down in the description. But let me just bring it up here. So this review is by Carl Kimlinger. This was written in 2008, and essentially, I guess I need to try to rationalize what was this person thinking. The best I can say is that he essentially reviewed what is, in all respects, a completely normal magical girl show. We're talking something along the lines of, Sailor Moon, Cardcaptor Sakura, especially I would say Cardcaptor Sakura. It has a very similar feeling to, Cyber Team and Akihabara, just any of that stuff. It's just a normal magical girl show. And he essentially reviewed it as if he were reviewing some pornographic doujinshi written about the show. It almost sounds like he's reviewing pornography, and it's very like, it's so at odds with what the show actually is that there's just this cognitive dissonance here where I'm like, what was this person thinking? Like, why did they feel the need to review this in this manner and, like, attack, the audience that's watching it like a bunch of otaku perverts or something? It really doesn't make sense, and it's still, like I said, it still kind of bothers me, so it's a little hard to talk about, but basically, the short of it, I think, is that this series apparently is a spin-off of an edoge called Triangle. Gosh, was it Triangle Heart? Yeah, so it's an eroge called Triangle Heart, and I think I've run across that before. It is, I almost am going to say that maybe Kotoko did a theme song for it. I don't quite know, but anyway, I've heard of it before, and I think that somehow this person who, watched this and wrote this review, knew that information, and I think that it bothered them deeply, and I think that it colored everything that they had to say and what they thought about the show. I think it basically caused them to read a lot into the show that there's really no reason to read into it. There's really no evidence, there's really no basis for reading some of the things into the show that they did. Suffice to say, basically, they criticized the show deeply for being really pandering, like kind of otaku pandering. They're like, it basically relies on, like, these moe character types, and genre tropes, cheesecake service shots, which honestly I didn't really notice any of. They criticize that, at one bathing scene, which again I don't even remember. Like, it was so inconsequential if there was a bathing scene in this. This is not one of these shows that, like, Pink Pineapple would have, just distributed or something like that. It's really bizarre the way that this person talks about this show. And they do say, some sort of things like, Nanoha is not without its appeal, much of it is cute, and the magical action is downright cool. But, here they get into it again. It's just that it's hard to enjoy it amidst the naked elementary school girls, traffic jams of knowingly recycled plot developments, and ponderous pacing. Now, some of those things I think are up to interpretation, but, again, like, they call out this one scene for being like they call it a thinly disguised S&M fantasy, which, again, I guess, like, I don't know, when you watch anime, like, sometimes some of this stuff is kind of like that, but, like, this person just seems so offended by this show, and there's so much, there's so little to it that's offensive. Like, the things that they call out as being offensive are almost, like, ridiculously unoffensive, The transformation scene of the characters, yes, they're in 3rd grade, and they do have a, like, kind of Barbie doll nudity transformation sequence. Honestly, when you kind of when you compare that to transformation sequences in other magical girl shows, I will admit it is a little, like, it does linger on, like, that a little bit more than other shows have, or even do at all. Like, I guess they could have left that out, but, I don't know, the level of criticism that they, like, levy against that one minor thing in the show, seems completely out of place. They overemphasize that to the extreme. It's very hyperbolic, like, the way that they discuss the series. And, again, this S&M thing, there's one sequence that's really short where, it's almost a spoiler, but where this one character is basically just being beaten. And, it's, I think it's effective in terms of the narrative of kind of, just giving you an emotional cue as to how to feel about certain characters and you know, kind of the things that they've gone through. It's representative of I think more general abuse, you know. And again, we could talk about nudity too, in terms of, you know, especially when you have characters that are like this age. You know, I don't think that nudity equals sex. You know, and that's one of those things that I think, you know, I think that this reviewer is reading into. I think that that's the only way that they could see that. You know, whereas I think, you know, nudity could be innocence. You know, it could be transformation. In this case, rebirth. You know, why would this? Why do these magical girl characters go through this transformation and, you know, have their clothes fly off and come back on? I mean, some of that is just, you know, references back to Cutie Honey, like the old Cutie Honey back from the 60s, you know, and, you know, was some of that titillation, you know, maybe, but, you know, I think that that's not the only way to look at that. You know, you can look at that and say, okay, well, you know, this character is being reborn. You know, how are we when we're born? We're naked. You know, I mean, it's like, it's so, it's such a minor thing. This person, like, it just latched onto a couple of these things and just went off into, like, they just went way nuts with some of the stuff, way more than they needed to. Suffice to say, Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha is a very cute show, but I found it very enjoyable. I think, you know, people of both sexes and any age could enjoy this show. I mean, it's probably a little dark for young kids, but it's nothing like the way that this guy portrays it in this review. If you guys want to read the review, you can. Maybe I'm overreacting to it, but I know that it caused a big stir on Anime News Network, and in fact, it bothered me so much that I've stopped following Anime News Network on Twitter. I'm probably not going to be retweeting any of their stuff. It was that big of a deal to me. But anyway, so Lyrical Nanoha A's, or Ace is kind of how they say it, but they write it A's, was the second season, and a lot of people really like the second season more than the first one. As for me, I actually think I like the first season better than the second. The second season, I think, like, it's a little more action-oriented and action-packed, especially for the first half of it. I think it gets drawn out towards the end, but the main thing with the second season, I think it's a little too tidy, a little too clean, and, you know, it kind of... I don't feel like it has as many surprises as the first season, which may be a little bit of an unfair criticism, because, you know, the first season was the first season, so you know, you don't really know what to expect, so they can hit you with everything and it's all new. But, you know, the second season, I just sort of felt like it was such a this sort of like self-contained tidy like scenario, you know, that you could really kind of see how it was playing out. There weren't a lot of surprises, and it just got kind of dragged out towards like the middle and the end. Suffice to say, though, I mean, it was good. I did really like it. The characters are pretty cool. The action was really cool, and it was fun. I definitely enjoyed it. I just wasn't quite as good as the first season. Definitely have a much softer spot in my heart for the first season. You know, again, like I said, just the characters and kind of the way that it plays with the magical girl tropes. I think it was a really good. A really interesting take on that genre. So anyway, I hope that this was enjoyable. I hope you'll join me again for more anime and video game related videos, and hopefully getting to see my snake here pretty soon. Alright, let me know what you guys think about that, and I'll catch you later.